Welcome to Central News for Wednesday 11th of September. I'm Amy Forrest. In today's news, the Waikato Bay of Plenty Cancer Society is pleased to announce their new SunSmart grant scheme is now open for applications. The grant scheme will enable all schools in the Waikato Bay of Plenty region to apply for funding to assist in purchasing sun protection resources. Schools will be able to apply for the sun protection resource that they need the most, including SunSmart sun hats for each child, shade trees, pop-up shade marquees, permanent shade structures or upgrades to existing shade in school grounds. Skin cancer is New Zealand's most common form of cancer, and evidence shows that overexposure to ultraviolet radiation from the sun during childhood significantly increases the risk of developing skin cancers later in life. The Cancer Society says that schools can play an important role in helping to reduce these skin cancer statistics by practicing SunSmart behaviours with children while they are at school. Harry McCleary is embarking on a new adventure, taking a bus ride around the city in an effort to promote his place on the city's waterfront. The promotion is part of the $800,000 Harry McCleary and Friends Tauranga Waterfront Sculpture Project, featuring 9 bronze statues of the iconic Dame Linley Dodd books installed on Tauranga's waterfront. From this week, Harry's face will now appear on the back of a Bayline bus travelling the city's Welcome Bay, run through 15th Avenue and Hirini. Creative Tauranga Chief Executive Tracy Ruddock-Gudzel says the banner featuring Harry, his friends and the slogan "Help Bring Harry McCleary to the Waterfront" will stay on the bus until the sculptures are installed. Tracy says the project still needs $100,000 to reach its fundraising goal. People can now donate to the project directly through the Give a Little website. Now for our region's weather. Heavy rain sets in for you tomorrow, Hamilton, with northerlies dying out, a high of 17 and a low of 5. And the weather looks grim for Tauranga as well, with heavy rain and possible thunder, a high of 18 and a low of 8. Just ahead, World Alzheimer's Month. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. It is estimated that around 300,000 New Zealanders are affected by dementia. Dementia affects people of all ages, ethnicities and intellectual abilities. After hearing about World Alzheimer's Month and the National Dementia Strategy earlier in the week, Jane Kay now tells us how to spot early signs of dementia, as well as how we can help those who are suffering from the disease or families who need to be supported through it.
Can you talk us through the progression of dementia? What are the stages that people tend to go through?
Because dementia, there's so many different types, it's very hard to talk through everything. Just for example, frontal lobe or frontal temporal dementia, a person with that type of dementia, they will begin by showing personality and behaviour changes. But the most common one, Alzheimer's, begins with short-term memory loss. So that person will still recall their childhood, but they won't be able to tell you what they've just had for breakfast or what they did yesterday. That's one of the earliest signs. They start getting confused. They start getting disoriented in time and space. So they have no idea of what day of the week or what month of the year, and get lost very easily. They start to struggle with daily activities, things that they used to do just second nature, they can't do anymore, and it begins with things like handling their money. And then another thing is their perception changes. So for example, they may be perceiving different floor colourings as different levels, things like this, so that everything is so confusing all around them. But finally, of course, dementia is a terminal illness. So our brain controls all of our bodily function, and at the end of the illness, they will pass away because the brain will shut down every function.
And what sort of services or support does your organisation provide?
Doctors are thinking at the moment that it's partly due to our fast-paced lifestyles and the added stress that is causing an increase in number of people with dementia. Also our eating habits. Too much fast food, too much processed food, the foods that are wrong for us. They've noticed that people who eat a Mediterranean diet are less likely to get dementia. So food plays a big part here. Not enough physical exercise is really an important one. Abuse of alcohol and drugs obviously is leading to an increase in certain types of dementia. Smoking is a huge one as well. And then they've identified that it's not obesity per se that is the problem, but an increase in fat deposits around your abdomen. So as our wonderful Dr. Prasad tells us, big belly, small brain. Keep your belly small if you want your brain to be big.
What are some other contributing factors that have been identified when it comes to sort of preventing this disease from an earlier age?
I think the most important part of our work is the education, simply because this is a very difficult illness to understand. We can't relate to a person with dementia just as we would relate to anyone else because of what this illness is doing to their brain, and it's making them move back in time and live in a different reality. So what we try and do is we try and help the families see the world through the eyes of the person with dementia, really walk in their shoes. So rather than arguing with them and correcting them, they'll be giving answers and treating them in a way that this person will feel safe and secure. So that to me is a big part. And we do the education by sending out information. We've got little booklets and so on. We also do it with big information sessions that we run once a month in 3 parts using a PowerPoint presentation, and also one-on-one in homes with a particular family about their particular issues. And then at times we'll do a family session. Maybe if you've got extended family living all over the country, we'll meet with them, say at a weekend when they can all get together and go through an education session with them. Another service that we provide that I also believe is really important is doing awareness talks out in the community, because we really want the community to understand the nature of this illness and support people who are struggling with it. So that's basically our services. How
can the public donate, and what will their donation help with?
It will help just to keep our services running, and to donate they can just ring 0800 004 001 and we will give them the instructions, tell them how to do it.
Aside from providing a monetary donation, are there other ways that people can help your organisation?
We're always looking for volunteers. We need volunteers obviously to help us with the fundraising activities and events that we hold. That's a big part of it. Also to help us distributing brochures to doctors' rooms. That kind of work is a big help to us. But I think the most important thing is getting volunteers who are prepared to spend time in the home with the person with dementia to give their primary carer a break. Often this person can't even get out to have their hair cut or see a doctor or do the shopping because they need to be caring 24/7. Those volunteers, we provide a bit of training for them, and obviously we have to go through police checks and all that horrible stuff, but they do so much. They are just such a godsend to the carers. So please, if there's anybody out there who's prepared to become one of those in-home volunteers for us, we would just love to have you.
For more information on becoming a volunteer or donating to Waikato Alzheimer's, log on to their website alzheimers.org.nz. After the break, kids and money. Welcome back. Global financial crisis, debt and rising house prices are words today's kids know all too well. So how can we raise this generation to be financially savvy? A local author has tried to answer this in his new book, Kids and Money. Hilary Entwistle found out more.
Welcome to the program, Phil.
Hi.
So, tell us about your new book.
So, Kids and Money is my new book. It's my third book that I've released and just come out in the beginning of September. So I'm pretty excited about having this resource that's available for parents, grandparents, aunties, uncles, essentially answering the most common questions that I've been asked over the last 12 or 15 years from people saying, how do I help my children when it comes to money?
So why did you want to write the book? What inspired it?
Well, all these questions happen, and for the years I would be running these seminars across the country. I've been on the TV here many times answering some of those questions, and I figured it was just time to get a resource in the hands of parents. You know, unfortunately, with the tight restraints on school curriculum and the time that teachers have, the focus that they take in the classroom, they're really not permitted to take a lot of time to teach children the practical aspects of money, and that means it falls on mum and dad at home or grandparents or caregivers, and they just don't have a resource to help them. So hence the book.
Because I remember at school we used to have those little banking bags and we used to have the little bank booklet and stuff like that. Do they even still do that?
No, and in fact that doesn't even happen at home. So most parents make the fatal mistake of doing electronic banking for their children. So they say, hey sweetie, I just direct credited your $5 pocket money to your account, here's your EFTPOS card. And that's a killer for kids. Kids don't learn that way. They think that there's an endless supply of money in the hole in the wall or in mum's wallet. And again, I address that in the book. Yeah, how do you disciple and train your children in some really common sense, practical elements that will help them to be able to make wise choices later in life?
And do you think that is because of, that where we've got to with money now, it's all electronic, we don't actually physically see it, that's actually making us not really think about where it's going? Absolutely
correct. Yeah, there's a disconnect between the behaviour and the consequences that happen with the money that we have or may not have, even if we are spending it.
So what does financial literacy mean?
Financial literacy is essentially understanding money relevant to your circumstances. So we don't need to teach a 5-year-old economics or supply and demand or even the value of money to some degree, but we need to teach them about motivation, we need to teach them about choices and consequences. Later in life, for financial literacy for teenagers means the ability to save using the benefit of interest and accumulation, the types of savings options they've got. All those choices become broader when you reach your teenage years, and then of course you enter the workforce and it goes to another level. So literacy is essentially helping you develop to the stage of life that you're at so that you have that as a platform to move to the next level.
What are some of those common unhealthy, unhealthy financial habits New Zealanders have?
Yeah, in the book I talk a lot about breaking some of those generational patterns. And quite simply what that means is that our children learn from mum and dad. And if mum and dad aren't doing it so well, guess what? The children are learning that. And so we talk about the absence of goals. So goals are very important. Goals are how you can get ahead no matter what your income level. I've been saying that for 10 years. If you use goals in a simple, practical, empowering way, you can achieve great things. And most families don't have them. That's one thing. The second thing is they use debt to fund their lifestyle. So Kiwis are relatively bad at it. Americans are worse. The UK apparently are shocking at it. And Australia not so much. But in Kiwiland here, what we do is we tend to fund our choices and our lifestyle with money we don't have, and we do that by credit card or we do it by topping up our loans, Q card, hire purchase, you name it. And all we're doing is we're teaching our children to do the same. I recently saw a 16-year-old child put a $3,000 Apple computer on hire purchase. I'll rest my case.
That's quite shocking. So saving is a big one. What are some tips to kind of save? Always
have a goal when you're saving. If you try and save money without a target, you will not be committed. Second thing is to keep track of it. You talked, Hilary, about the savings passbooks. I encourage kids to have one of those. Even my son has a chart on his wall. He's saving for a new electric guitar, and he's got a chart on his wall, and it motivates him and it keeps him on track. You can do that as a big person. You can have a target on the fridge that you colour in, you know, get the whole family excited about the Christmas holiday you're saving up for, those kinds of things. And finally, put the saving somewhere where you can't get it, you know, because when it's committed to and it's isolated, it's not easily spent when you have a weak moment in your favourite store.
I always got told that a good tip was to do that automatic payment straight on the same day that your wage goes in. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely, Hilary. One of the principles I teach in my first book, which was called Becoming Money Wise, is that your priority should be to save for your goals before you pay your bills. And I don't have time to explain it here, but it's something that's helped a lot of people.
So where can we get your new book then?
The new book is primarily available via the website, kidsandmoneybook.com. There are some bookstores that are starting to stock it, but at this stage, the website or Amazon, for those people that like to read on a screen, you can get it at Amazon as well.
Well, this is some very good tips, and I look forward to reading the book. Thank you, Phil.
Thanks.
You can find out more at kidsandmoneybook.com. Up next, fighting for the Sharks. If you have just joined us, welcome to Central News. In New Zealand, it is legal practice to kill a shark for its fins and dump it back in the water. Greenpeace and New Zealand Shark Alliance are teaming together to see New Zealanders become more aware of what is happening and encourage them to fight for change. Riley Elliott, a member of New Zealand Shark Alliance, told us earlier in the week about why this is happening and what the potential damage will be if this practice isn't put to an end. He now shares with us what he is doing personally and how individuals can learn more and get involved.
So you're currently working towards your PhD. Can you tell us how your research sort of fits in with shark finning?
Well, what I realised was the blue shark was being impacted the most in New Zealand and, in fact, worldwide. And we know very little about its habitat use, its migration, where the population goes, whether it's a South Pacific or a New Zealand population. So what I've done is some quite cool technological work putting satellite tags on the dorsal fin of blue sharks. And they're about $3,000 or $4,000 a pop, so you got to do it right when you put them on the sharks. But the results we're getting back are fantastic. It basically shows where the blue sharks go, when they're there and what they're doing. And with that information we can identify where these critical, important habitat areas are in New Zealand and how that relates to the fishing pressure currently going on. And unfortunately the government hasn't done this work, so it's up to the people who really care about it, like myself and the New Zealand Shark Alliance, to put our hands up, get the public together to help fund it and do the research that needs to be done.
And how can individuals support what you're doing?
Well, we've had, heaps of them in New Zealand stand up and show themselves. A girl, Taylor Finder, up in Auckland. I heard of a guy down here in Hamilton. He went out and got 1,000 people to sign his petition. Taylor has been recognised internationally by the Shark Angels, which is a big group of women who care about sharks. And in New Zealand ourselves, we go around and have Shark Fin Free Auckland, people with banners and petitions. Basically, everyone can try and create awareness. That's what the New Zealand Shark Alliance is trying to do, to show New Zealanders that shark finning occurs in New Zealand and it's perfectly legal. And New Zealanders are disgusted and shocked by that. So we're trying to bring the awareness to the people, so when the legislation through the New Zealand Plan of Action for Sharks comes out this month and next, New Zealanders can voice their opinion, and 99% of that time that is banning finning in New Zealand.
So you mentioned before that people are working to get pledges to see shark finning stopped in New Zealand. How many pledges have you got currently?
The last count Greenpeace did, I think, in New Zealand was about 14 or 15,000. Shark Alliance website has about 5,000. And then there's individuals, like I said, like Taylor Finder doing their own ones where by thousands and thousands more. So if people really want to get involved in this, They just need to go to the New Zealand Shark Alliance website or Facebook page where there's links to all the events that we do, the petitions you can sign, and ways that you can help out. And the biggest thing you can do is tell people about shark finning in New Zealand. It's legal, and where you can go to get information is the New Zealand Shark Alliance website.
How long do you think it will take to see any action?
Well, I would like to think that this legislation or this drafted document of the National Plan of Action coming out this month and next will put a stop to this. There is no economic, ecosystem, scientific sense in continuing this trade, let alone politically how damaging this is to 100% pure New Zealand. And we know already there's a lot of heat on that branding, so I just see it as common sense on all fronts to ban this. So hopefully the government will take on the opinion that New Zealanders have, the international political pressure, and the scientific and ecological sense that it makes to ban finning. So I hope this month. If not, there's going to be a lot of people annoyed, pissed off, and they're going to speak out. Hence why we need to make people aware of this problem.
So Shark Awareness Week is coming up this month. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, it's kind of off the back of, the International Shark Week. We really wanted to get people hyped up, learn a bit more about sharks, change that scary perception, you say, so they can understand the problem sharks are facing, which then flows on to our fish and ourselves. And so what's happening is all around New Zealand, Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch, there's a few events on at places like Kelly-Tarleton's, Te Papa, where you can go along, learn a bit more about sharks from scientists, from experts, from people like Jamie McDowell, singer-songwriter. Go to Kelly-Tarleton's, go to Te Papa, see some cool shark specimens, some live sharks, and just learn a little bit more. Sign your petition, sign your pledge, show your support, and then spread that knowledge around. And again, go to New Zealand Shark Alliance website and you can check out the full flyers there of what these events are and what you can do to help.
Now, you mentioned previously that the tags that you're putting on sharks cost a lot of money, thousands of dollars. So where does this money come from and who's funding these tags?
Yeah, they cost an extremely large amount of money, and luckily there's passionate New Zealanders out there. People like Kelly-Tarleton's, Atlantis, have all come on board, Line 7, and then people out of the woodwork, corporate sponsors, people personally sponsoring me. And I've set up quite a cool system whereby people can sponsor an individual tag. I put it on the shark and I name that tag after them or their business. And then we're setting up a live kiosk feed at Kelly-Tarleton's and online where you can actively go look at where your shark is today, where he or she has been, and I'll update it about what they're probably doing in those areas. And that really allows people to come into the circle and share in what I'm doing out there. Because too much of science is kept in the laboratory on paper and not enough of a public forum. So I've really made that effort in keeping up with that awareness vibe is to get people involved in my science. And in doing so, that's brought the public in with the funding, which has enabled us to learn a lot more about sharks in New Zealand. And hopefully that will continue.
To sign a petition or to find out more about sharks in New Zealand waters, visit newzealandsharkalliance.org.nz. That is the news for today. We really want our viewers to get involved, so like us on Facebook and let us know your views. If you have any news, including your own video or photos, go to our website and hit upload. Thanks for joining us. Hilary will be back tomorrow with more guests from in and around the regions. I'm Amy Forrest. Have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.